Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free at AAA.com/commanders. Hey, babies, hey, babies, hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I know what you're thinking a little bit here, and I would think the same thing. Things are going sideways. Bram decided not to do a podcast for a couple of days leading into the game, but as it turns out, and I've been doing this every week when I go away, I notoriously forget something. It was my belt in Dallas. All right. So sometimes it's a toothbrush. It's like without fail, I forget something. This time, I left the bag with my computer, microphone, recording equipment at home. And it's so crazy. I didn't even realize it until I got there. And then I was like, oh, I should probably put together a segment for the show because I got there Sunday. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I had to call Callow, who was dead because he ran in the Marine Corps Marathon, and tell him, I don't know, man. I got to have to tape things on my phone and send them to you, which I did. So we had a radio show. That does exist. But there was no podcast. So conspiracy theorists of I don't want to talk about the team because the season's not going well. Not true. I just screwed up and I forgot my computer. So sorry about that.
That's one of those, if this was a coaching moment. I know that you knew that you screwed up, so I just didn't really say anything there when you texted me that on Sunday night.
What am I going to do? Go buy a microphone and a computer and all this? What am I going to do about it?
I'm well aware, dude. So I saw that text message and then I was like, all right, we'll just figure it out. We'll get it done. So yeah.
The radio show will happen. The radio show can always just happen.
Right.
I mean, if worst comes to worst, I could just be on the phone. I could do that, but there was no podcast, so sorry about that. I tried to be responsible and I wasn't. You had a weird day. No KC for you.
Yeah.
Callow was supposed to go to the game, and then he texted me and said, "Can't make it. Plane didn't work. I'm out."
Right.
Yeah.
I had the literal first flight out of Dulles on Monday morning. It was supposed to be Dulles to Atlanta, Atlanta to Kansas City, because there was not a direct flight that was within reason to go and make it to the game. I get on the plane. It's 5:30 a.m. I'm good. Have way more time. Sit in my seat. As you just said, mentioned the marathon. I didn't really sleep because I didn't want to oversleep for this flight. So I get into my seat and I pass out. And I wake up. Oh, this isn't good. I've been asleep a little bit too long here, and we're not even off the gate yet. It had been an hour and a half. I had about between landing to the KC connection. I knew I was dead in the water before we left Dulles. Get to Atlanta, no other flights. Ended up just flying back to Dulles because I wasn't going to get there in time with whatever flight they had. So I actually made it to Atlanta and then had to turn around. Basically just had a wasted travel day. It was pretty much the worst of the worst because I just wasted a day doing that is what happened.
You can get a flight back from Atlanta to DC. That's not a problem.
Oh, that was easy. I literally went to the gate agent and I went, I've already looked up all of your flights. You can't get me to Kansas City. Just get me back to DC. And
wow.
Because that's exactly what she did. So yeah.
Wow.
It was. And like I said, I'm sitting there really tired, really sore. And I'm just I just wasted a day and I couldn't even lay in my bed all day. So that was my Monday leading into just watching the game at home. So that's how it went for me.
All right. Well, if you had to miss one.
I mean, I knew it going in. This was kind of not going to go our way. This was more of a let me go see Arrowhead trip anyways. And the game was kind of the side of what it was. I'd come to terms with that probably 2 weeks ago.
On the you may never get to see the Commanders play there again front, just real quick, and I'll get into the game. I talked to a number of people while I was out there, and I guess it is starting to lean toward it's very possible that they're going to be forced basically to do the Lambeau thing and spend a lot of money redoing Arrowhead. Because I guess there's not a lot of political will in Kansas. Remember, Kansas City, Missouri is literally on the border. There's not a lot of political will in Kansas, apparently, to build a stadium nearby. And in Missouri, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I keep thinking they're going to get it, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. And there were a lot of people that were talking about, there's a love for the stadium anyway. And, we went up to Lambeau and they did a remarkable job with Lambeau Field. And I'm all for keeping historic venues like this, and Arrowhead is up there. There's nothing like it. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. The place is a dump, but it's amazing. And I'd love to see them keep it, because even if they try to replicate it, it's not going to be the same. So we're going to try to do something that's cool with RFK. And like, I actually heard this interview with Josh Harris where he talked about the curvy top of RFK is something he remembers, the stand shaking, something he remembers. So they're going to try to replicate it. Will they be able to pull that off? I don't know. So there was a little bit of that, like maybe Arrowhead will end up not being dead. So we'll see what happens with that. As for the game, I talked about it, yesterday, but I'll talk about it now with you. To me, the beginning was the end here. You get into their territory 3 times and you don't score any points for a variety of reasons, you will lose. And so they had a million chances and a million opportunities. They outplayed the Chiefs in the first half. They should have had 17 to 21 points. They ended up with 7, and they should have had a lead. And I do think, maybe they would have lost anyway because the Chiefs were just kind of rip-roaring like in the second half. But it's just a different complexion of a game than 7-7. And while I was really happy that they were tied at halftime, way too much was left on the field. And eventually, you're just not going to beat a team like that if you don't take advantage of your opportunities. So to me, it's the beginning was the end. They had their chances, and they didn't cash in on them, and that's it, period.
Not only that, you forced 2 turnovers in the first half, and you're still tied. I mean, that's about as perfect in the first half. They're still in a lead at any time against them. I'm not surprised that it went sideways in the second half there. And look, the aggressiveness from Dan Quinn, but we all, once again, the only pathway towards winning was having a damn near perfect game, scoring points off of turnovers, and making it the 4th downs and score on all those turnovers. They didn't 4th down, and they still walked in there tied. In this
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, they played. Listen, they responded. They said they were really angry about the way they played the week before. They did have what felt like I didn't see. We don't get to watch a lot of practice anymore, but of the parts we saw, it was far more intense, at least initially. I think they let us see a little bit more one day purposefully to allow us to kind of see how they were responding to the Dallas game. They talked the talk all week, and I thought they walked the walk early. They came out with a tremendous amount of energy. They did cause a couple of turnovers. One of them was lucky, but the Kansas City one was lucky that it bounced off Debo and went in the air. It really was, just missed opportunities. And if you're going to play a team like that, and you're going to beat them on their home field, you got to take advantage of everything. And they just didn't. And, the 4th and 6 play, unfortunately, went 5 3/4 yards. And the 4th and 1 play, it's the second time now that they've had a end short situation where it was an interesting call. And this wasn't Jaden out there. This was Mariota, him going under center and doing a sneak or handing off to Bill or C-Rod or whoever, I think is an appropriate ask on a 4th and 1 instead of being forced into some all-out blitz. It was a great defensive call, by the way. But, like the one with Jaden a few weeks ago against the Bears where they were like, well, it's wet outside and he's in the gun. He's in the gun on every play. It worked a million times last year. Like, I don't know why everyone all of a sudden, because it didn't work, the 1 in 100 that didn't work on that, like all of a sudden you're mad about it. In this case, on the 4th and 1, it wasn't Jaden. Mariota could have gone under center. They could have, QB sneaked, pushed, whatever they wanted to do there. That's the one call I would go back to and say, I don't know if that was the right move on that one. 4th and 6 was 4th and 6. The bottom line is, though, they had their chances. You don't get a lot of them against the Chiefs in any game, and they blew it. And so, that's the reason why they ended up losing. I mean, the idea that you're going to hold a team like that to 7 points for the entire game, I don't care how good your defense plays or is, you're not going to. And I went into halftime feeling good at 7-7, but just kind of knowing that the second half's going to be different. And it really was.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. It was also the first game, too, where it just felt like the offense wasn't clicking. It felt like they couldn't get anything really consistently going. The run game has largely disappeared at this point. So then you were forced to have Mariota throw to Terry and throw to Debo, and neither of them have been on the field at the same time since week 3, since the Raiders game essentially. And then all of a sudden you're asking guys to do things that or rely on those when they haven't practiced together. And I kind of just knew it was a recipe for disaster. The run game slowing down, though, is where I kind of pointing the finger here of why nothing else is working, because it allowed the Chiefs to just tee off on what they were doing.
Yeah, this one, listen, the last couple of weeks when it was Terry and Debo out, and then the week before where Debo looked really marginalized and Terry's out, and I'm like, eventually teams are going to wisen up and go, okay, take your chances on the outside with us. Like we don't think that you have guys that consistently can beat us. And so we're going to take our chances with it. And the Bears got burned on it a couple of times, but not enough to get away from it. And Dallas was putting people in the box. They rushed some, but spied more. They just wanted the run game slowed down and dared Washington to do anything about it. Just the return of Debo and Terry, to me, was going to force the Chiefs, I thought, to play them way more straight up than the last couple of teams had. And they still couldn't run the ball. So this was a little problematic to me that this one went this way. Their run game was dominant early in the season. It's become inefficient at best. And I can't excuse Jaden being out for that because Mariota is remarkable with this zone read stuff. He's one of the best in the business at it. So, like, that's a real threat that he can run on any particular play. Him ending up being the leading rusher, that's not Jaden, so that's problematic. Bill's yards per carry are way down over the last few weeks than they were early in the season. Rodriguez is barely getting any touches right now. McNichols is a big-time contributor for this team, for sure, but he's not going to be outside of some crazy run against the Raiders. He's never going to lead the team in rushing. He's supposed to be the number 3 back, the third down back, pass-protecting back. It's turned out to be a reliable receiver. But it's Bill and C-Rod. C-Rod's not really being used. So it's got to be Bill, and teams have figured it out. And I have not like watched again. I want to see what happened here. The previous couple of weeks, I'm like, oh yeah, they couldn't run the ball. Yeah, no kidding. No one's going to let them do it until they get their receivers back. They're going to sit there and go, I dare you to beat us over and over with Luke McCaffrey. We just don't believe you're going to be able to do it. Now that these guys are back, you have to play them straight up. Terry looked like Terry in a few moments the other day, which was a nice development. I'll talk about him in a minute. But the running game, this is where the season's going to go awry. Like, they've got to get this back. If they don't get this part back, then they're not going to have an offense that is scoring at the clip that they were scoring. And I think we know what the score is with the defense now, that it's not going to flip around and become a top 5, top 10 defense. It's not. So the offense is going to have to be prolific when hopefully they get everybody back at some point. And if they don't have their run game clicking, that also is not going to be what they need it to be.
This is where, yes, this season starts to crumble away, because if this isn't going, then the offense isn't going. And when the offense is going, they really don't have a puncher's chance against anybody at this point, right? Like, the one ray of sunshine through, the beginning of the year was, hey, the defense isn't good, but at least they're dropping 24 in Atlanta, 22 or 23 against the Bears, with all these guys that they don't have, by the way. Like, they didn't have Terry for all that stretch. They don't have a Debo that's at 100%. Now you're telling me that against the Chiefs, those guys were out there, clearly not 100%, either one of them, but they were out there at the minimum, and the run game couldn't get it going at all again. And by the way, I'll say this, I was super worried about Chris Jones. He didn't really have much of an impact in that game.
No,
so I don't know. I don't think they were necessarily avoiding him, but I also don't think he was wrecking the games either. And that's where I was actually a little concerned, because I was thinking, if they don't run the ball, it's because he's going crazy. Well, he wasn't going crazy on that game on Monday. They did a good job of neutralizing him. That's where I'm concerned, that their superstar on defense wasn't the problem. It was almost like they just couldn't get it going themselves.
Yeah. As for Terry, listen, I mean, if you were wondering, what's his value, go watch the couple of plays that he made. He wasn't heavily targeted, but the couple of plays that he made were game-changing type plays. That utterly ridiculous catch that he made that had to be reviewed, where he somehow stayed in bounds and landed on his right thigh. And then the touchdown, which, again, the body control is remarkable, but, it took all of, 3 quarters, and he tweaked it again. And I'm just not, are we going to get a reliably healthy version of Terry McLaurin for any point for the rest of the season? And I think only he kind of knows whether that's the case or not. So, this is feeling like it's not a lost season with him, but you see the difference that he makes in these moments. He is incredible in these contested catch moments. He's got the elite ability, and they've needed it back on the field badly. And as quickly as we saw glimpses of it, is as quickly as we saw him going back in the tent again. So this is a season where he's going to be managing whatever the actual issues are. I'm not asking for what the injury is, but clearly this is not a tweaked anything, considering how long it's taken for him to get back on the field, and that it took all of a couple of quarters for him to get checked out again.
Yeah, with him, it was a cruel reminder of what they are when he's in the offense, that you can chuck it up to him, and it's the meme. If Perry's down there somewhere, and he'll make a catch, and once again, he makes an insane sideline catch that's not ruled a catch, and then they get it on the replay. It was a reminder too. I mean, I'm with you. It's going to be management for the rest of the year, but it's also a reminder too to all the people that were going, oh, he's getting old and he gets paid, whatever. No, he can still do it. He could still do it at less than 100%. But I'm with you. It's going to be managing in this the rest of the way, and it's, like I said, a cruel reminder of how good he can be. But right now, he's clearly marginalized as well that he didn't come back to that game.
I keep feeling like, and they're running out of time, but I keep feeling like, well, when they just get their offense healthy, it's going to give them a chance here. And I'm starting to kind of come to terms with it's just not going to happen. And they're just going to have to figure out a way through without having their primary players. And then, the goals of the offseason will be to get Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and whoever else as healthy as possible heading into the next season. Cosme too, I think to a larger degree. I think you're going to see a different person next year because he's not going to be coming off ACL again. So this is just turning into one of those years that there's a long way to go. It's the NFL. I still think they have enough talent to be better than this. And, who knows, but the schedule's very, very difficult. And they just can't seem to, it's not even just catch a break anymore. It's they're managing their roster. And what's left of it is what we're at now. Like the defensive front, which I'll get to in a minute, I without making a trade, I don't really know what they're going to do. And I'm not sure at 3-5 that people would be advocating trading any kind of real asset to try to get help up front. But let's see what they do with that. The quarterback's been injured. I don't know if he's playing this weekend or not, but he's been injured twice now. McLaurin, the idea that he's going to be healthy at all this year feels actually preposterous. Noah Brown as well. Cosme's going to be coming off. I mean, now Tunsil's hurt. It's all just kind of going in a direction of we got to get through this thing, see where we end up, and then the offseason is going to be about licking our wounds and trying to get everybody back healthy again.
No, I mean, that's exactly where we're landing here. It's week 9 and they're still not back, any semblance of being back. It's not just one piece. It's multiple pieces that aren't back. There's not even a road
to it anymore. I kept being well, when they get everybody back, and then as every week goes by, it's either additional injuries or the people I'm hoping get back don't come back healthy. It's tough.
Right. Yeah, when it's especially these nagging injuries, they're not going to get healthy. This is what you've signed up for essentially with what they've got. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know where you go from here. I am not advocating that they try to trade any more assets to kind of try to keep this season afloat. Here's really the main factor of what it is too. I mean, if they don't have Jaden Daniels, they literally don't have the X factor on the field that won them a bunch of games last year as well. So that's also where it starts and ends too. If they were in Kansas City the other night and Jaden's going, if Jaden's on his game, I think they still have that one punter's chance of winning. But because
100%,
because Terry's hurt, Debo's hurt, Mariota's getting, blitzed all night and they can't stop it. Yeah, of course you're going to lose. So that's where I'm landing here too, is that it does start and end with JD5, especially with having the best shot to win.
On the other side of the ball, I mean, and again, now attrition's really starting to add up here too. Can they win up front? And, in the first half, listen, Jacob Martin played like his hair was on fire. And
great.
Kinlaw and Payne have had outstanding seasons, but now Kinlaw's dinged, says he's fine, but he's dinged up. We didn't know if Payne was going to play because he's got a toe injury, when that's not going to go away, so hopefully he can continue to play and play at the level that he has been playing at. Von Miller, I think there's only so much you can ask. I mean, I think they brought him in to be somewhat of a closer, rotational piece. Now what? They got to ask him to play a million downs because of it. Frankie Luvu's playing defensive end. That's not his natural position. And there were a few times, and I feel for him because he's like getting blown off the ball on run plays or screen plays by a tackle that's 100 pounds heavier than him. Like, it's just, they're in a bad spot here. And the question now is, without Armstrong, without Wise, without John Baptiste, and none of them are coming back. It's not like, oh, let's just wait until they come back. None of them are coming back. What can you do? Like, this is turning into, this is rough. I mean, this is like the answers now, like the criticisms of how they've played with the tackling and not being able to generate turnovers. And honestly, where are the adjustments exotically to try to get pressure? I think those are fair questions of the coaching staff. There are fair questions of the players on missed tackles and all that type of stuff. But there is a reality that when you lose just too many parts, and it's happening on both sides of the ball now, that there's just a reality of you can't overcome all of it. And I don't care how creative you are. And when you're playing Seattle, Detroit, Philadelphia twice, it just starts to stack up in a way where you go, I don't know, man. Like, this was a hard enough schedule without the bazillion injuries that they have. And now it's feeling overwhelming. And, I hope they can cobble something together this weekend. I'm hoping Jaden will play. I'm hoping Terry will play. And they cobble something together to figure out a way to win against the West Coast team at home before they get Detroit. And we start asking the question again, if you're not going to get any pressure on Jared Goff, you're done. Like, you are done if you're not going to be able to do it. So it's my long way of saying I just am so hopeful that things were going to turn for them from the injury perspective. And I know they don't want to use it as an excuse. And I don't think it's the total excuse for what their record is, but it is a big part of the story. And it's a big part of I don't know how you overcome all of it if all of these people are going to consistently be out or unreliable to return.
Yeah, it was actually pretty crazy over the weekend, too, that every single team in front of them that played in the NFC did lose.
Yeah.
And yet it's still
the Eagles. The Eagles were the only one.
Well,
yeah.
No, I meant sorry, I just meant from the wild card spot.
Yes.
From the 7 spot down.
It was as good a weekend as they could have asked for in the playoff race for them, that everybody lost. But, they had the wrong team at the wrong time, missing just too many people. And I give them a lot of credit. Boy, did they came out punching at them, but they had every chance in the world to at least have a lead going into halftime, and maybe even a double-digit lead. They did not take advantage of it, and it was a matter of time that it was going to fall apart on them.
It's also just one of those things, though. You go and look at the standings of all that happening, and they're so much further to the bottom than they are to that wild card spot. And I know they're playing a bunch of the teams in front of them, but it just feels like if that had happened, and then we knew that they were actually going to get healthy coming into this week or next week or whatever, I would have a little bit of a different feeling. But it just feels like the wave is crested here, and it's a little bit too overwhelming. That's the feeling that I get with all.
Well, I just keep looking for, the light at the end of the tunnel is Jaden's healthy, Terry's healthy, Noah comes back, Cosme starts looking like himself. They figure something out at defensive end. Will Harris comes back, and you start to go, okay, it's back on, at least to try to make the playoffs. But none of these things are happening. And That's the hardest part of the whole thing, is watching this thing kind of crumble this way. The amount of injuries they took early, I kept thinking will turn and all that stuff, and it's not feeling like it's going to. I mean, that's the real issue here. And if their record gets to a point where, I mean, hopefully not. I don't see why they can't, especially if Jaden plays. I don't see why they can't win this weekend. I think they can. But it's the rest of the way where you start looking at some of these teams like Detroit and Philadelphia, who might be battling for the 1 seed. We already know what they are. You've got 3 games against them. That's where it feels like if they don't ever get anything resembling their roster back, what chance do they really have to try to make a run here at the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other argument here too, I would say it's an argument, but it's something they should have thought about was Debo's not 100%. Terry's not 100%. Clearly, Jaden's not 100%. Did no one think that, hey, maybe, resting them against Kansas City would have been the move to go up against these NFC teams? I know no one wants to hear that, but like you have to be realistic in some of these scenarios here that what's one more week for those two when you're about to play a couple of NFC opponents when your NFC record hasn't been good. I know no one wants to hear that, but like I'm just saying.
If they won that Chicago game and they were 4-3,
yeah.
I actually think they might have maybe put some consideration into something like that. But because it was 3-4, they wanted to give it their best shot. And also, I advocate you put your best players out on the field if they can play. I mean, there's no hiding any of it. It's not like they were, it's not like they were 5-2, coming into this. It's not what it was where you can go, let's take it easy here. It's going to be a tough battle anyway, but like they need to win. And, you want your guys to want to play. So I would never advocate for anything like that, but I'll hear you. But if they were really going to do something like that, they kind of needed to bank that Chicago game. That's the killer here. Because just sitting at 4-4, they'd be 2 games back to Philadelphia. Yeah. And we can start continuing to make this case of, well, they haven't played them yet. And if you go look at Philly's schedule, they got to go to Green Bay. They got to go to Buffalo. Like, they got to play at Dallas, who they almost lost to, who's scoring at a crazy clip. You kind of never know. They have to play Detroit, too. Like, their schedule's not easy either. Like, their schedule's really hard. But being 3 games back and missing the amount of people we're missing, it just feels somewhat overwhelming right now.
Yeah, I think it's the word. Overwhelming is what I would say. There's too many things that haven't gone right and still aren't going right at this point in the season.
And that's rough. I mean, the Phillies sitting there going, yeah, well, A.J. Brown didn't play last week and Saquon just got hurt, and our defense has been missing people. Everybody's got this going on. Ours just feels like it piled up. And, I don't know if it piled up. The defensive end part, they were actually deep at that position. Suddenly they're just not. Like, I don't blame them for that. The receiver one they were always one of those guys going down away from us going, where's the depth at that position? And that's where you can go back to maybe a decision or two that happened in the offseason and go, I'm not sure why you didn't keep, let's say, Zacchaeus or have another veteran or something like that. Like, I think you could point to something like that, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Olamide Zacchaeus would save the season right now. Like, that's just, you're really reaching, but we can parse out some of the decisions that were made, but I'm not going to sit there and go, well, because you didn't keep him, like, that's why we're in trouble. No, that's not it. It really isn't.
The games haven't been so razor thin that Olamide Zacchaeus' 3rd or 4th down conversion would have saved this season. No. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you on that one.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 to Sports Capital. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA like 24/7 roadside assistance plus 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive MVP events, and unforgettable experiences. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP upgrade for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, so we do have to ask a big question because it's coming up here, which is what to do at the deadline for the Commanders. Buying is obviously, something that is on the table here. I think if they were to go and beat Seattle, I think they would have to seriously consider that. Things have already started to move, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the Patriots are in an enviable position of having a really good record and moving away from players that I guess don't really have a future with them and getting assets back. That's an unbelievable position that they're in. But, the other ones, the more, traditional ones are, who are the Jets going to sell off? Who are the Dolphins going to sell off as their seasons are, obviously kind of done. And so Washington's got to think about that. And both of those teams do have a glut of defensive linemen that could be available. You have to start asking yourself, though, how much are you going to double down on a season where generally your team is not going to be healthier? And then you do have to ask the question, well, you have a lot of guys on 1-year deals. I know it doesn't signal what you want to signal because you think that, you have a contender, but we are where we are. Do you consider moving anybody if things are kind of going the literal wrong way? would somebody be interested in a Von Miller, like a contending type team, especially in the AFC? Would he want to do that? I don't know. I heard someone say to me, and I don't think that this is viable, but they were like, do you think a contender wants Zach Ertz now, who's again in the last year of a deal? I don't know. I'm feeling as if that, like, if they did something like this, it might be someone like Vaughn, who just kind of got here. Things just haven't worked out. Like, you could get an asset for him. You're probably not bringing him back next year anyway. So, like, I would hear that one out. The Ertz relationship with Kingsbury and Jaden makes me feel a lot differently about that and whether he would be here next year or not. But they've got some real thinking to do. And I think this weekend's going to have a lot to do with how they think about the trade deadline and whether they would actually be open to moving some of their parts, even if it is for low round picks, because this roster does contain a lot of veterans on short-term deals again, as they've tried to thread this needle of rebuilding the roster and staying extremely competitive all at the same time.
No, these are all guys that I would assume they're going to ask them to say, hey, if you have a market, do you want to get moved? And they're probably going to leave it up to them, because Adam Peters does seem like the type of GM that does do that. Like he did it with John Allen last year, right? Where they told him, they were straight up the whole entire way. They weren't going to keep him. They'd try to trade him. Then they eventually did, cut him. I'm with you. Like, I think you have to look at that. You have to look at any assets that come back, because frankly, they don't really have much of a choice, especially if they lose this weekend. You have to get some assets to just fill the roster out again next year. Like, we've been talking about this for 2 years now, about how this roster is going to be a constant turnover because of the lack of depth for the last, 3 or 4 years with, Team Ron running the draft. So I think at this point, you've got to think about that. I'm with you. Like, Von Miller seems like a very good one. I know he's banged up right now. I told you, if some contender comes along and wants to try to trade for Daron Payne, I know he technically has a year left on his contract, but he can be cut after this year. I'm just saying, like, I think you gotta listen for everybody. I'm not saying sell for whatever everyone's offering, but I think you got to listen to just about everybody for what, your offseason is about to incur because of all the veterans and the lack of depth in a lot of positions.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to move Payne. Like, I feel like I want to make that decision in the offseason because he is under contract next year.
Sure.
Like, yes, it's at a large number, and yes, they're going to make a decision about that number, whether it's extend, release, whatever it may be, or trade. Like, I still think there's an extension possibility. I still think with the cap room they have, considering how he plays in contract years, that you kind of have an interesting scenario of just let him play it out. I know it's a high number, but you see what you get when you have him in this kind of true contract moment. So I could make a case for that too. There aren't many others that I look at and I go, this is a possibility with some of them, but there are older veterans on this team, and a number of them are either not going to be back or going to be put in different positions next year if they are. So there are choices to make. But if they do win this weekend, I know they're not going to give up on a season, and they might become buyers again. The question is, what are you going to really be willing to give up, considering you already are, short stacked on your draft picks because of deals you've already made? It doesn't feel particularly comfortable, even if they're 4 and 5, to go, let's give up more assets. I would buy, the pick swap thing that's going on. Like, can we get one of those Dolphins defensive linemen, eat the money on it, and do a pick swap situation? So you give up a 5, but you get back a 6 type of thing. So you're not giving up multiple assets here. I would buy something like that if that's in the offing, but I don't want to see them trade a high draft pick really for anybody at this point, unless you feel like, look, Jaden and Terry are going to be fine in a couple of weeks. You'll see. And if we win this weekend, it's back on for us. But it is a tough sell at where they are to go, let's double down on top of this right now.
Yeah, I don't think buying's an option. I just don't. I mean, outside of what you're
a good deal, and it would have to be a pick swap and something like that. And then it's really just about money. And then I'd be like, okay, so they'll eat the money.
Even then, you're talking about picks that they don't actually really have either. So you'd be just moving down in the draft anyways. I don't even know if I really love that for salvaging a season that doesn't seem very salvageable at the moment. That's what I'm getting at here. I think just overall, there's not this like overlying hope that, one player could help turn this around. It's not. There's just so many things going wrong at the moment.
It's starting to move now, but the Patriots are in the extremely enviable position of first-year coach, working with the GM, being able to move people that are in and out of their rotation and still have a great record. That is an incredible position to be in. So the Patriots kind of have the world, the world's their oyster right now. How far are they going to go? I don't know. I just don't feel like this is a true, throw them up against Kansas City in the playoffs or Buffalo in the playoffs. Let's see in the playoffs. I'm not sure they're kind of ready for that. But listen, Washington last year kind of out of nowhere won a couple of playoff games a little ahead of schedule. Maybe they're capable of doing this. And if they win their division, their first game would be at home. So, and considering what their record is, if they won their division, they might end up having like a 1 seed. So I don't know. I don't know how far they can go, but what a position they're in to be able to trade guys, especially someone like Duggar, for the amount of money and get that off the books and get an asset back and not miss him. That's amazing.
No, I mean, they're having an ideal year too with Drake May. They have players left over from Belichick or from the previous off seasons that are not fitting in. They get to trade them for assets anyways. And Drake May is getting better seemingly every single week. So I'm with you. They're in an enviable position. And look, they're getting all those picks. They should be buying too. Like, I expect them to make a move to bolster, either side of the ball there because they're getting all these assets too. They're in a really good position at the moment.
They are. All right. One other NFL story I want to get to. Quinnipiac put out a poll. It's their famous thing that they do up there. And it was about the NFL. And there were 3 things that popped up that came out of this poll. And again, it's polling of fans, and the majority of the people are NFL fans. And there were 3 big questions that popped up. And one was about expanding the schedule, which is inevitable that it is going to happen. There will be an 18-game schedule with 2 preseason games. Roger Goodell's already signaled it. The question is when it's going to happen. The collective bargaining agreement, I believe, expires in 2031. So the players don't really have to do anything about this, but the NFL could induce them with more money. There obviously is more money to play the regular season game. People were asked about in this poll, do you want that? Number 1. And 2, how worried are you about player safety? And in both cases, the overwhelming answer was the fans want it. So, there's no, not surprised, there's no pushback to either one of those things. But that was issue 1, that they do want more games. It sounds like the NFL is actually very willing to give in on stuff to make this happen. If I were the PA, I know this is not great. You don't want to add more games. It does probably will shorten careers for sure. However, because you have them under contract for 5-6 more seasons, to reopen this gives you the leverage to get whatever it is you actually reasonably want from them. And you're rarely in that position with them. The public wants it. The league wants it. Use it as your leverage point to get whatever the other thing is that you want, because it seems to be they're willing to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think too the ideal pairing here is you get the 18th game and then you add a second bye week. I think everybody would be very happy with that type of setup, especially because you'd expand the season out, a couple of weeks there as well. All of a sudden you're stretching into late February. This league owns everything right now. They own the highest TV ratings. They own, the most eyes on their sport, everything. They own the merch. They own, people still going to see the games in stadiums. They have a lot going for them at this moment in time. I think if you're the PA, this is your leverage point too. Get that extra bye week going too, because to your point too, you're going to need to rest a little bit more. This makes it a lot easier for you to also manipulate the schedule a little bit. You and I have talked about how Thursday nights probably could be scheduled out a little bit better. You could probably have teams time this out. We saw it last year where teams that were playing on multiple Thursday night games looked much better when they were playing 2 in a row instead of just being thrown into that short week. The league could also make their quality of play better here too. And I think that's also something that's very underrated with all this as well.
In this poll, the fans actually pushed back at what's going on with the dynamic kickoff. And I'm landing on that too. I'm glad the kickoff is back and that it's not a ceremonial thing and it has a lot of excitement to it and there's a lot of big plays. The teams have too good a field position consistently, period. So I don't know exactly what the answer is, but they've got to tweak this. One of the biggest plays of the game the other night was Jalen Lane mishandling that kickoff and buried them deep in there. I mean, that was like beginning of the end after that happened. But largely, I don't think that there is a way that makes this punitive enough. Nobody is starting without a massive mistake with bad field position. It's too good. Everybody is starting at almost bare minimum the 30. Most of the time, the 35, sometimes the 40. It's too easy to score. So I think like there has to be a balance here. I'm glad the kickoff is back. Can we figure out a way to give the coverage units a possibility of stopping somebody inside their own 20? Because it doesn't feel like that's possible at all right now. And it's just too punitive to the coverage units. I think it's too much. So I'd like to see a tweak back. I'm glad they're back. I want them to stay. But we got to figure out a way to give the coverage units a chance to like actually bury somebody deep in their own territory.
To me, it's also messing up the end of games a little bit. Like, you now have games that if they're in Dallas, their kicker, you only have to get like 10 yards for their kicker to have a chance to get 3 points on the board. We're starting to get these weird scenarios where if you have an ace kicker and you're indoors, you have so much better of an advantage to other teams here. I'm with you. This has got to be tweaked. I'd like that kickoffs are back. It's been really exciting for us personally, right? Like Luke McCaffrey and Debo have both been fantastic all year. It's been fun to watch, but I'm with you. And I said this as someone that still plays fantasy. The yardage is really down across the board too. That's going to kind of like mess up some stats, long-term wise. I think they've got it, but they need to tweak it somehow. Maybe it's knocking everything back 5-10 yards, but I don't know the easy solution there.
Last thing off this poll, and this will come and go after February, was the fans were asked about Bad Bunny being chosen as the Super Bowl halftime act. And along party lines, which I guess they asked, where do you affiliate with and why would you not? If you're going to ask this question, you have to ask party lines. Obviously, it was split, and the Republican fans hate this choice, think it's terrible. The Democrat fans don't care. And this is what I would just largely say to all of it. One, what do you think he's going to do? Two, he's American. Stop saying he's not. Three, so he sings in Spanish. What's your point? Like, I heard someone say, this was funny, last year, a lot of people probably didn't know Kendrick Lamar very well, and also couldn't understand a word he was saying. So I actually thought that was pretty funny. That was a good line.
Also,
but really four, and I think I just can't wait for this era to be over. Get over it. Like, what do you make? This guy is one of the most popular and accredited streaming artists ever. He is one of the most. Why in the world would you have this much disdain about it? Get over it. Grow up. And to use your word, stop being a snowflake. What is wrong with you? What do you mean? I'm so upset they chose him. Why?
I always ask everyone this. Were you upset when Shakira and J-Lo did it 5, 6, 7 years ago?
That's right.
Whenever that happened? Because same vibes there, guys, but I didn't hear a lot of bitching and complaining when that happened. Per usual, it's always, what are you angry about this week? And that happened to be bad. That happened to be Bad Bunny, and it's whatever. So, and the other thing is the people that are most loud about this, they're not picking the halftime show for you anyways. It's always for a younger crowd at any point at this point. And he's way more popular than you even realize if you're bitching and complaining about him. So yeah, I've been over that pretty much since the second it came out. It was also, once they announced it was, oh boy, I know who's going to be angry about that one. And that's exactly what happened. They played right into it.
I actually was surprised. I was just kind of they don't even know who he is. So, and then I guess they saw, they Googled him and saw he complained about Trump once, and therefore we have to get this crazy mob out. And I thought you guys were the don't cancel people. What? Grow up. He sings songs. You don't even know what he's singing about. And trust me, they're not about you. So just who cares? Get over it. Yeah. All right, I'll be right back. Brad wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA like 24/7 roadside assistance, plus 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop, chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive MVP events, and unforgettable experiences. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP upgrade for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, real quick before we go, this is one of my favorite World Series of all time. This has been amazing. We've got this underdog who really shouldn't be because their offense is crazy, taking on, the behemoth that's got the unlimited resources. And in the meantime, two of the players, Freddie Freeman, is now hit walk-off home runs in multiple World Series games. And Ohtani, who at the highest possible level, you literally can't pitch to him. If you throw a pitch to him, you're an idiot. This is an all-timer. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I'm locked in. This is incredible theater.
I was talking with someone about the Blue Jays, and it was more after they won the CS to go into the World Series, and they were like, "This is what they've done all year. They don't look like the best team, but they are the most opportunistic team that they've ever seen." And when I saw that, I went, that's very 2019 Washington Nationals, where the Nationals were never the better team in any of the series except maybe the Cardinals series. They were never the better team in that whole entire run, but they were just clutch time and time and time again. And it seems like the Blue Jays have that gene right now where they just are taking advantage of every single opportunity that they've got. And it's really fun to watch. It's so fun to watch. And you had Springer, who didn't even start yesterday because he's banged up too. Like, they're not even dealing with the full deck right now too.
This should have been over last night. They're the ones that lost the 18-inning game.
Yep.
Ohtani's pitching the next day. They win anyway.
Right.
I love them. It's incredible. This is incredible theater. Real quick, because I know people talked about this a couple days ago, but we haven't. When did we talk about trading Bryce Harper when he was here, since he was complaining so much about trade talk with the Phillies, which, by the way, they also were not insinuating? Their president basically said, I don't know if he's going to get back to this elite category again. He never said we're looking at trading him. And all I remember when Bryce Harper was here was whether he would sign with us, not if we were trying to trade him anywhere. What world is he in? What world is he talking about where we collectively were talking about trading him all the time? That was never, ever, ever happening. It only got down to, well, if he's never, ever, ever going to get, the whole time it was 3 years of, are you going to sign with us? It had nothing to do with trading him.
I don't know exactly the entity, but it was always talk of what his next team was going to be. It was always assumed he was moving on. It was always assumed
not
he was going to
trade him, though. Not to trade him. It was basically us begging, are you just going to sign a contract with us?
Yeah, I think the question was always, is he going to sign the extension? The answer was no, but it was always, what's the next team going to be? Is it going to be the Yankees because you grew up a Yankees fan? So I think he misconstrued that a little bit. But to his point, he was always talked about what's the next team after Washington. So I will sympathize with him on that front.
That's
no,
his
not
fault.
really. No, I disagree with you on that. I disagree with you 100%. I think when he got drafted here, it became an NBA trade. It became Brad in his prime. It became, where's he going? Because we don't want to see him in Washington. So was it trade exactly? No, but I get the sentiment that he was saying, because I remember we would talk to Mark Zuckerman or whatever, and it would be 2 years down the line, and Mark at some point would go, hey, why don't we just enjoy him for the couple years that we still have him here? This is going to play out no matter what. And I always appreciate Mark for that. But I think
didn't appreciate him saying in this piece, I tried to get away from all that trade talk when I was in Washington. Nobody here was talking about trading you.
Yeah,
nobody was.
I think what he kind of morphed that into, I was always assumed I was going to leave here, and I didn't like hearing that talk. And that's something I know for a fact he didn't like that at all. So it wasn't trade. It was moving on from that.
And then
team.
guess what? He left. So I guess everybody was kind of on it.
Yeah, I mean, we can always talk about the learner deal that they offered him there.
Sure.
That's still a deferment into your 50s is not something that's ideal. So both sides on that one.
Real quick, Wizards lost, whatever. Caps lost, got shut out last night. What do you got on that one?
That was going to be a grinded out game. I've talked about Jake Ottinger before. He's my favorite goaltender in the entire league. They got a goal and then they grinded the Caps out. This was not the 7-1 loss on Saturday where it was terrible, but this one was they scored the first goal. They grinded it out against them. This one actually wasn't as bad as some of their previous losses. They also just don't play well in Dallas. So I'm not really too concerned about this one.
I will give NHL golf clap here. All 32 teams played last night. They were whipping around last night. It's a Tuesday night. Y'all are finally figuring it out. It's 2025, playa. You found an open window to do. I mean, I guess the World Series was going on, but like,
yeah,
you found an open. Do more of this. Do more of this.
So my one little complaint here is you couldn't do this tonight where it's a travel day for the World Series. Like I would have done that. They also just need to do a little bit better promoting it. I didn't know it was coming up until literally Monday or yesterday during the promotions. This is a great event. Probably do it 2 times a year instead of just the one time. But yeah. I love this. Games start at 6 o'clock. They go all the way to 11 to start. Keep doing this. Keep doing this. Yeah,
whoever Canadian Scott Hansen is, throw him on the Red Zone NHL. Let's go.
Right, exactly.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.